Good morning, YouTube. I wanted to take a few minutes today to explain to you some of the benefits and neutrals on real estate, so you kind of understood what that investment looked like from a return standpoint and also from a value increase, how it affects your net worth and things like that. If you like the video, like and subscribe down below, and we'll get right into it. So this is kind of the way that inflation, inflation, rent, property management, all the things involved in owning, rental real estate, look to the regular eye. You have actually a few things that real estate has. One is has an increase in value as you own it, and there are certain things that cause that. The second one has the net cash flow of the properties. There are certain things that they think cause that, and then there are things that are not a factor. So real quick, let's take the things out of here to simplify what we're looking at for real estate as an investment. Take out the things that are not really factors. So taxes on the property are always a percent of the property value. So property value is up here. There are things that might trigger that property value, but taxes just flow as part of that expense. So it's not really a factor. It's just a percentage. Insurance is the same way. Property management is the same way. And the regular maintenance on the property is the same way. It's not really a factor in the decision on the property. It's not really a trigger. It's more a following factor based on something else. So I'll give you an example. Recently we had a lot of inflation. So inflation happened and things happened and rents did not go up. Well, what triggered rents going up? Well, rents triggered in this place going up. They triggered by taxes being increased. Taxes from the schools charging more money in for instance, Rogers, caused rents to increase. If schools hadn't increased taxes, the expenses to landlords wouldn't have went up. To owners of properties would not have went up, and they wouldn't have had to raise rent. So specifically, that directly caused raised rents. Now, there are factors that cause tax increases, such as inflation and things like that. But I want to understand, raising rents is a net positive on cash flows. There are things that trigger those, value increases in properties, tax increases, which increases expenses. The rent itself is also a net cash flow factor. The third thing is more skill at maintenance. If you are better at maintaining a property, you have better contacts, you have better relationships with people that maintain properties, you have more trust, you have more people inside, that will net add to your cash flow because you'll be better at it than other people. Better financing. Interest rates go down, payment cycles change, 5-year to 7-year, 30-year payment cycles, and those things can affect your cash flow directly. So as you get better at that, and as interest rates increase, that will affect your net cash flow. Income tax deductions. You get to deduct or depreciate over 27.5 years the value of the property, or sometimes there's actually accelerated depreciation, so it means everything you put into an upgrade. So for 1 year, I spent $18,000 on upgrading the property. That was expensed in that year, even though I got the benefit over several years. And so $18,000 minus 40% tax rate, you're talking about $7,000-8,000 I get to save on my taxes. And that can be a benefit for cash flow. Those two things. Then the last thing is inflation decreasing my debt. Let's say I owed $100,000. Inflation is at 7% per year. After a year, I owe effectively $93,000. That is a real benefit. That is $7,000. Actually, I never have to pay back. Now, how is that actualized? Where do I see that benefit? That's a different thing. But understanding that inflation decreasing my debt is a net benefit is key. Now, you can't have it both ways. And so when you go up here to the value of the property, inflation also increases the value of the property, sort of. Because the property is worth $100,000 and inflation is 7%, the next year, on average, it'll be worth $107,000 if there's no other factors involved. So you're really just maintaining the value as the value of the dollar goes down, which is a good thing because it makes it a hedge against inflation. If you take $100,000, you put it directly into this house. Over time, it's going to maintain that value as the dollar goes down in value. So real estate does that. The second thing is increased demand. If you're in an area where there's like a circle of demand and that circle increases, you're outside of that. As that circle hits you, your demand on the property will increase and therefore increase the value. Think of a downtown area expanding, or there's a large employer and the radius around them as they grow expands, the more people want to live. And so those increase demand, but increased demand can also be caused by increased wages. So if the average wages in areas go from $40,000 to $45,000, the property will be worth more. If you come down to the rent increases, the value increase can cause rent increase, which can track back to wages, which can track back to maybe inflation or things like that. So if you look at real estate as an investment, it's not going to make you feel wealthy to own real estate, because the net amount you're putting in your pocket is very small. But if you're wise and you kind of take out these factors, because they're just percentages year to year to year, and you kind of understand what does inflation do for you. Number one, it's an inflation protection. Number two, it can go up passively. So there can be like a sail on your boat that just kind of pushes your increase in value forward. Number three, if you don't have it, then what you have may just be decreasing in value. So if you have $200,000 in $100,000 in cash type things or depreciable assets every year, you might be down $20,000 because your car went down in value and your money went down in value. And so that's a kind of a poor middle class thing to do. So you're down 20 before you make your money for the year. And for me, due to these factors in a house, I may be up $5,000 before I start working. So if you have 5 houses, now you're up $25,000, and you're adding that to the amount that you're making as opposed to subtracting it. And so those are important factors to consider in your investment as an alternative to stocks and crypto and things. In the last video, we talked about how to get started, how to do asset allocation. We talked about systematic investing. We talked about where to get money to shift into alternative investments. So I wanted to make sure I covered with you some advantages of real estate as an alternative investment. Now, usually the path is something like this. People are in stocks systematically, then they move into having some type of side gig or a business, then they move into real estate because they have the money to move into real estate. And so I kind of showed you a methodology and a way to say, I'm going to take my systematic earnings and investment, and then I'm going to plan over time to shift those into alternative investments as they grow. So the right method, I don't think, is to just jump first thing into real estate. That creates a lot of drag on your cash flow because of all these things that you have to be aware of that can affect your cash flow. But as an investment that you get into after you have some stocks, after you have some crypto and some passive things that are creating a little bit of a buffer for you, it's a great investment because it has so many factors that increases the value of the property when you're not doing anything. So if you like the video, like and subscribe down below, and give me a suggestion what else you want to know about, and I'll make a video on that. I'll talk to you later. Bye.